2 years ago, three friends and I hiked deep into the forest for a weekend completely off-grid. No service, no roads, just wilderness and the company of others. Looking back on it, I think all of us agree we wish we had never gone. We dropped one of our SUVs off on the opposite side of the forest, about 13 miles from where we planned to hike through. We circled back and started our trek. Day one was absolutely perfect. About 5 miles in, somewhere about 45 minutes away from home in Shasta County, we found a quiet pond surrounded by tall pines. We pitched our tents, swam, cooked dinner, and knocked out early. Exactly the kind of getaway that we all needed. Day two, that's where everything changed. Only 2 miles from our current campsite, we came across another camp, except this one looked like people had left in panic. The tent was collapsed, a pot lay face down in the dirt, clothes were scattered everywhere, like someone ran without grabbing anything. But the worst part? The tree trunks around the camp were carved up hard. At first, we thought bear, which is normal out here. But these weren't bear scratches. Bears leave vertical, large gouges, usually in groups. These were almost perfectly diagonal, clean, deep, singular strokes, definitely made by a blade. And there weren't just one tree cut up. There was dozens, symbols carved into some, almost ritualistic. Lines forming a ring around the clearing, like someone or something had marked the perimeter. We should have kept moving, but we wasted so much time investigating that the sun began dropping fast. We pitched a camp not far away and tried to ignore everything that we had seen. That night, all of us woke up to the same thing. Voice. This voice was whispering our names. Not from the forest, not from a distance, but just outside the tent fabric, inches away. Eli. Mark. Come out. We unzipped the tent, hearts pounding. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement, just a feeling. This feeling was thick, heavy like, almost like the forest was awake and watching us. Like the trees leaned in closer than before. None of us slept again. At first light, we packed up. We did not say a word the entire walkout. There was no joking, no laughing, no talking, just a silent agreement that something was very wrong. I'm not the superstitious type. I don't usually believe in rituals or curses or anything of that sort. I kept telling myself maybe stress or exhaustion messed with our heads, but the part that I never tell anyone. Since that night, all four of us have heard the whispering again. Not in the woods, not while camping. At home, in our cars, in our bedrooms, always at night, always close, and always the same words. Come back. None of us ever returned to that forest, and the hobby that we all loved, we all shared, those trips every few months, we haven't been camping since. And in the near future, hell, maybe even ever again, I don't think we will. Never talked about this before. Not to my friends, not to family, not even online. Because for a long time, even thinking about this made my chest tighten and my hands shake. It's the only experience in my life I can say genuinely traumatized me. The one experience that made me realize how quietly and how patiently a person can slip into your world without you noticing. I think it's time I finally share it. I used to camp alone all the time. It was the one place I felt completely in control. I had no roommates, no traffic, no responsibilities, just me, a tent, and whatever book I grabbed on the way out the door. I picked a small campground near the state border. There was nothing fancy, maybe 8 or 9 sites spaced far apart. A single dirt road, and one ranger who locked the entrance gate at dusk. It was perfect. I set up early, I made my fire, cooked dinner, and by the time the sun dipped behind the trees, I felt the familiar calm settling in. Everything changed around 10 p.m. I heard footsteps, not the random crunch of an animal. These were human, rhythmic, careful. I turned off my lantern. My heartbeat was so loud it felt like I was shaking the tent. After maybe a minute, I finally saw it. A shadow, tall, motionless, just on the other side of my tent. Whoever it was stood there long enough that I actually started wondering if I was imagining it. Then they slowly walked away. No words, no flashlight, just a soft drag of boots on dead leaves. I barely slept. The next morning I tried brushing it off as another camper passing through. Maybe someone got lost. Maybe the ranger was just doing his rounds. Except, my site was the furthest one in the back. No one had any reason to walk behind my tent. I thought about packing up, but I had paid for 2 nights. I didn't want to be dramatic over something I wasn't even certain was real. That afternoon, I hiked a short trail near the creek, just to clear my head. When I finally came back, something felt wrong. My cooler wasn't where I left it. My folding chair was slightly angled toward my tent instead of the fire print. Little things. Almost like someone had been adjusting my campsite. I told myself it was just a whim, but when I unzipped my tent, I found footprints. Deep, heel-first footprints. Right in front of the door. Someone had been standing there, watching, waiting. That's when I decided I wasn't staying another night. I packed in under 10 minutes. Right as I was loading in the last bag to my car, I heard leaves crunch to my left. Someone was standing behind a cluster of trees. Not hiding well, just far enough to pretend they weren't watching me. He wasn't a ranger. Hell, he wasn't even a hiker. He was a middle-aged guy in a dirty green jacket, hands in his pockets, staring like he had been waiting for me to notice him. I said, "Can I help you?" He didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly, almost studying me, like he was working on a math problem in his head. Then he said in this slow, almost polite voice, You moved everything." I froze. I didn't even understand what he meant. He took one step forward. "You had it set up nice earlier. I liked it better that way." That was all I needed to hear. I got into my car so fast I dropped my keys between the seat and the console. I could barely still see him. He was in my peripheral, just standing there, still focused on my campsite instead of me. When the engine started, he finally looked up at my face, and he smiled. Not wide. Just enough to show he was disappointed I'd ruined whatever game he was playing. I drove straight to the ranger station. The ranger went back with me to check the site, but the man was gone. No vehicle, no evidence that he was still there, nothing out of place except those footprints and my rearranged campsite. The ranger asked if I was sure I hadn't imagined some of it. I didn't blame him, but I knew what I saw. 2 weeks later, I got a call from that ranger. They found a man camping deep off-trail, living out of a tarp shelter miles from the designated sites. He had no ID, no vehicle, just supplies, a binocular set, and a notebook full of observations about campers that he, quote-unquote, liked. My name wasn't in the notebook. There was no reason for it to be. My wallet stayed on me. He never saw my ID. But what was weird, my campsite description was in it. The last entry was dated the night before I left. It said, "He sleeps too lightly. I'll try again next time." I haven't camped alone since.